Evening. It is 6:01 and I call this meeting to order. All board members are present. It is the practice of our Board of Education to begin our meeting with prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. We invite you to bow your heads in prayer and stand to join us in the pledge if you so choose. Mrs. Gallo.
Let us bow our heads. Lord, we respectfully ask for your guidance and wisdom as we proceed with the business before us. Keep us mindful of our purpose of providing a quality education for the students attending Taylor County Schools. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in honoring our country's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Stallings, are there any addendums or adjustments to the agenda?
Indeed, there are none for this evening, Mrs. Garvin.
Wonderful. The superintendent respectfully requests approval of the agenda as presented.
Moved.
Mrs.
Second.
Gallo moves. Mr. Dowdy seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 1000 series information. Stacy Harvey from the Fairmont Federal Credit Union.
Thank you. At this time, we have some guests from the Fairmont Federal Credit Union to do a presentation. And so, ladies, if you'll join us at the podium, we'd appreciate that. And as a reminder, please remember that we are being live streamed, so speak into the mic. And if you will flip the switch on the very bottom of it, that would be helpful. There you go. Thank you. You are ready.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Stacy Harvey, and I'm with Fairmont Federal Credit Union, and I have Julie Swick with us as well. And we're here to present a check for $1,939 for the 5 schools in the county for their care closets. This is part of this year's our 85th anniversary. So each month we have chosen a different charity or nonprofit organization that we could make a donation of the $1,939, which is significant to the year that we were established.
Oh,
So that's why it's kind of everybody's like, that's an odd amount, but it is significant to the year that we were established. So we would like to present that check to you all this evening and then be able to give each of the schools, divide that out for each of the schools to give for their care closets.
very good. Thank you so much. Do you want to?
Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.
The generosity that our communities continue to show our students is outstanding, and we thank you for being right up there in the front with that.
Absolutely. Well, we are a partner in education with Flemington too, so we love doing things with that school. It's a nice community school.
How do you want to proceed with that? Do you want to?
Could we do a picture? Is that
Yeah.
is that okay
Want
to
to
do?
bring that forward here for the
Sure.
board? That'd be great. We like big checks.
Well, we have the big check for the picture, and then we have the real ones for the principals.
Well, we have representatives from each of the schools here to receive those. They are expecting that as well. So why don't you take a picture? Why don't you bring all of them forward too? Ladies. Mrs. Knotts, our building principal from West Taylor, is caught in traffic. She wants to stand.
We could probably just stand up.
Yeah, stand. Yeah. Let's all stand up.
Are we good where we are, or would you like us to move somewhat?
You want us to get together?
If you guys squeeze just a little bit, because I have a hard time getting the end in there.
Say cheese.
Everybody, perfect. Secure closet. Yeah, care closet. All right, I took several, so hopefully all eyes are open. And let's see, I have drafted. Okay, and then West Taylor.
She is caught in traffic as we speak. Did she send?
I'm not going to miss you two. Thank you. And then should I leave this with you?
We would like you to leave that, yes. Thank you. We'll see that she gets it. I think these are individually made out to, into schools. All right. Please just don't cash those on the way home. Thank you, see ya. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Same to you.
Thank you.
What a wonderful, generous thing. All right, moving on. Mr. Bryce Eisner, President of the Grafton High School's chapter of the Youth Associate Justice, West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. That is quite the mouthful.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So my name is Bryce Eisner. I'm the acting president of Grafton High School's chapter of the Youth Leadership Association, which is a community service-based organization that also focuses heavily on the implementation of teamwork, leadership, and the teachings of our government's daily operations. I'm joined today before the board by my vice president, Addison Nethkin. So we're approaching the board to request permission and approval to speak before the Taylor County Commission in an effort to raise the remainder of our funds so we can send our students to the annual Youth in Government program in April at the Charleston Capitol Building. The Youth in Government program is one like no other. It gives students the chance to take on some of the roles within our government in the closest simulation to the real world. This year, I have the great honor of serving as one of the 5 Associate Justices of the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeal. I am also currently campaigning to become elected as the 65th Youth Governor of the state of West Virginia. So through this program, I've had countless opportunities to become something more than myself than I would have had anywhere else. I would not be where I am today without some of the amazing people who involved me with this organization my freshman year of high school. So now that I progressed to become president, I hope to make the same impact that they had on me years ago. Without the approval of you, the member of the board, I cannot say for certain that I'll be able to provide this experience for the future of this organization. So we hope to request $1,100 from the Taylor County Commission. That comes down to about $220 a person, and there are 5 people who are attending. So we've made an effort to fundraise via a Spirit Week Teacher Pie fundraiser, and we have set our date for our annual chili cook-off during the Bridgeport versus Grafton High School basketball game. All of that said, we ask for your support, that way we can go on and obtain the funds we are lacking for our members. Thank you.
That is amazing. Does anyone have any comments that they'd like to? He's not a delegation, so we're allowed to ask questions and speak.
I just want to thank you for your dedication and, your efforts to support all that you're doing, and fabulous job on your presentation skills.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
If there are no objections, I will entertain a motion to allow these fine young people to carry on and, by all means, approach the Taylor County Commission.
Motion moved.
Second. Well,
Mr. Dowdy moves, Mr. Taylor seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you so much.
Go forth
Yeah.
and make us better laws.
And I hope one day in the future we see you running for governor for real.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady. Good luck to that.
Okay, Mr. Rich Board.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I asked Dr. Stallings if it was possible, if I could get on the agenda for this evening. We have had a budget increase in our athletic department, which has been extremely beneficial. But along with that budget increase, our building principal mentioned that there was a certain amount of that money that had to go for safety. So this evening, I am asking for your guidance, your direction in which way you would like us to go. I have made sure during my time as athletic director that I put our kids in the safest equipment that we can possibly afford. For those of you that aren't familiar with the equipment we used, I've asked Coach Foley to come here this evening for several reasons. Coach, will you show them the difference between the helmets, please?
This first helmet that I'm showing you is, it's called a Rydell Revo Speed. It was a helmet that was probably the top of in the market in the mid 2010s, somewhere around there, but became obsolete around 2014, 2015 when Rydell developed what's called the Speed Flex, and I'll show it. So this is the Rydell Speed Flex. What they did was, if you see, this is a solid shell. This one has a panel on the front. So when contact is made with the helmet, the kinetic energy is displaced through this panel, which at the time, a lot of contact was being made this way, but since then, the method in which a lot of people teach tackling, which is where the majority of that head contact occurs, has changed. They do a lot of what's called keeping your head out of the tackle. So instead of that head coming into someone's body, it goes to the outside of their body to eliminate a lot of head contact. You can't control everybody's movement on the field, and head contact does occur. So this panel helps reduce that kinetic energy when that contact is made. Concussions were still occurring, and they were occurring more so in what we'd call skilled players, players that would carry the football, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. And on the defensive side, the more athletic players like your linebackers, your defensive backs, safeties, were the ones that were more susceptible to concussions. Their contact was different than what a lineman would be. So Rydell came up with what's called the Axiom, all right? The Axiom helmet has 4 panels, one in the front, one on each side, and one in the back. Because running backs, receivers, quarterbacks get a lot of contact from the side. And then when they're tackled, a lot of times their body, they can't brace themselves. Their head will hit the turf. And that's the purpose of the one in the back, to help displace that energy when the head hits the turf. Also with the Axiom, you can see the padding in it is a lot thicker than the Rydell Speedflex. It's a fitted helmet. Athletes will wear like a skull cap that has sensors in it. It's scanned, and it is molded to their head. So the padding is specific for each player that receives that.
So do just those certain positions get this helmet, or does every player get this helmet?
Any player could wear it. We have 5 right now that we've purchased over the last 2 years. Like I said, any player could wear it, but based off of how contact is made with certain position groups, it's ideal for the skilled players, the smaller athlete type kid, rather than the lineman. So that's the difference. This is the best helmet that you can buy on the market for high school players. They make something like this for college and the NFL, but they're not available to us to purchase. But this is the best one you can buy.
Is
How
there
much
a,
are those?
Well,
They cost, let me get around this mic. I spoke with the Rydell rep several times in the last couple of weeks. We can purchase those for They're about $150 more than a Speed Flex helmet, but he was willing to work a deal with us, and depending upon what direction you want us to go, the deal was we could purchase 7 of those helmets, and the 8th one would be free, and they would also give us a free year of the computer information that those helmets provide.
What is the, do they have a warranty or guarantee for 1 year, 2 years? Like how often will we need to replace?
Each of our helmets are certified, and that certification will last for 10 years. Each of our helmets are also reconditioned, and during that reconditioning period, they determine whether or not that helmet is still safe to use, and then those are returned.
Okay,
But
$150 cheaper doesn't answer the question. How much is each one of those helmets?
with the best helmet, the Axiom helmet, they're $550 a piece. If we buy 7, they give us the 8th one for free. You're paying about $415 for the Speed Flex, which is a good helmet. And I want you to keep in mind, we had 2 concussions last year. One occurred in the locker room where a kid fell, so it was non-contact related. The other one occurred in practice. I want to make sure that everybody understands I'm not here to sell the helmet. I want to make sure that you know that I did my diligence in looking at these Guardian caps also. But it's also a very confusing time because it just depends on who you speak to. I spoke with the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots today, and he said on the NFL level they like the Guardian caps. They are required to wear those unless they sign a waiver and they have to choose a helmet that the NFL has selected as being particularly safe for their position. And the helmets on the NFL level, along with the helmets on the college level, are selected based on the position that they're wearing. They don't buy all of one helmet. Where they might buy a helmet for defensive linemen for one company, they buy helmets for wide receivers from another company. We also took a look at the Guardian caps. There was a strong case for the Guardian caps. The NFL had one study that said that they reduced concussions by 46%.
And those are the bigger ones, they look bigger anyway, right? I've seen some in the NFL wear them, and you can tell when they're wearing them because they look bigger, right? Or, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a clarifying question then. If the Guardian caps would be utilized, does that impact any contract with Rydell?
It does and it doesn't. I have given you some information. First up, the picture that I've given you shows you what a Guardian cap actually looks like in case you've never seen it. The second 2 papers in that folder are the letters that I received, one from Rydell and the other one from the company that makes the Guardian caps. And I spoke directly with their representatives. Rydell says that there is an organization called NOSHA that certifies all headgear and in all sports. It would not be just football, it would be baseball and lacrosse and wherever there's headgear. That Rydell has to pay a fee for NOSHA because they test all of the Rydell helmets. The problem has been that the Guardian caps company will not pay NOSHA to either certify or not certify. So because the Guardian caps are not certified, then Rydell is claiming that they void the warranty on the helmet. Now, again, I've spoken to multiple people about this. In our Big Ten conference alone, Harrison County schools received a grant that all of their schools got the Guardian caps, but only one school, which is Bridgeport, chose to wear them. I talked to 2 athletic directors, and they said they're still in the boxes because of that question about the warranty. They're concerned about what might happen. I spoke to an attorney who happens to be my brother, and I showed him the letters that I just showed you. And he said, I don't want to be in the middle of that case. He said, it won't take Rydell long to walk away from any kind of a, God willing, it doesn't happen, a catastrophic injury because of the guardian caps not being certified. That's the danger with the guardian caps. There were some strong cases for them, but the schools in our conference, and those are the only ones I've spoken to directly, have tried to stay away from them because of the warranty. I also spoke with a guy who was the associate, excuse me 1 minute, he's associate director of training at WVU specifically for football. And he told me that West Virginia University and Marshall wear the guardian caps in practice. They're not required, but they do strongly suggest that they wear them. But he believes the future of football is to get a better helmet, because what you have to understand is those guardian caps are used in practice. Kids get used to those in practice. Then they take them off to play a game. And studies have shown that they used a crash dummy. And in the crash dummy, they put some kind of sensors in the headgears. Any kind of contact that would be considered head-to-head in the frontal part of the head and in the rear part of the head showed no improvement with the guardian caps. Where the guardian caps work are on the sides of the head, where you get a kind of a sliding sort of motion, and that's exactly what I was told by the guy from WVU. 60% of high school concussions occur head-to-head. 20% of them occur when you have contact with a body part to the head, and the other about 12% occur when the head hits the ground. And most of the time that your head hits the ground, you're either hitting the front or the back of your head. So that's a little bit concerning about the guardian caps, with them testing to show the test that they are not very good with that kind of contact. Now, please understand, I'm just providing information here. You guys need to direct us on, where we want to go from here. What I have done is I have provided you with also in that little packet arguments for each one, so you saw that there are positives and negatives to both sides. I also made a little chart in the back to do exactly the same thing, to show you the positives and negatives. I am more than happy to do either one that you all choose for us to do. We can, with the additional money that we received, we can purchase the 7 helmets this year, and actually the 8th helmet this year. And then, Coach, would that give us 13 of those helmets at this point?
Yeah.
One thing that you have to be careful of, yes, sir.
Of the second choice or the third choice?
Of the top-notch helmet.
Of the top-notch,
Yes,
okay.
sir, of the top-notch helmet. And obviously, our goal is to put as many of those kids that we have, as many of our players in the safest possible helmets that we can. The problem is the certification on the helmets. Every 10 years, they have to be recertified. And let's just say magically somebody drops $20,000 or $30,000 and said, just give everybody one of those helmets. In 10 years, you got to be prepared to drop $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 to replace them. So what my typical operation is, I replace 6 helmets a year. So each year we're rolling 6 helmets in and probably losing 6 helmets. Now, some of them get broken during that time and we have to replace those, but.
May I ask a question, please? You spoke, Mr. Foley, you spoke specifically to the fact that there are sensors that custom fit to our players.
Yes.
I won't say our gentlemen because we have female players too, and that's a great thing. But it custom fits to them, and then we're talking about a 10-year span. Does the helmet that fits me this year, that Mrs. Gallo inherits next year, do we refit?
Yes. So they
So
will come
every
back.
year it happens with every new player. It's not like
Yes.
we're stuck with that head shape for 10 years.
So what what we would typically do is when they come to pick up our helmets for reconditioning,
Okay.
we would have the kids come and they would scan the kids that day. If we had a change or someone didn't play, they will come and scan the kids, as we need. The return on the helmet is fairly quick to just have the internal replaced. It's just a couple weeks, but that's what will happen is they will come and scan the helmets. They realize that this is the way it's going to be, and Rydell's kind of prepared to have to go and scan a lot of kids in the future.
Okay. The other question I have about that same thing is the skull cap they wear to have that fitting is what compensates for different hairstyles every time they come in with more or less and all that.
Yeah, if I don't think I may have a picture. I'll show it to you. It's a really like a shower. I mean, it's really tight to the head.
Like a skull cap.
They have like different sizes based off of like the shell of the helmet can either be an extra large, or medium. And so based off of the circumference of the head is what cap they put on there to determine the shell that they'll use.
Thank you.
May I also mention that with the computer program that will go along with these helmets, Coach Foley can use basically an iPad, and for practices and games, he can tell each individual kid that has a helmet on where that contact has been made. If there is for lack of better terms, a history of possibly that individual player leading with his head, he can also correct technique with that too. I asked the guy at WVU you have to understand, let me say this, you have to understand that concussions occur more on the high school level than in college or in the pros. And I asked that question, why? The answer, there are several. Number one, kids are typically younger and don't know or understand the technique. They're being taught the technique. 2, practices are longer, which they've shortened high school practices now somewhat. And number 3, I forget. Number 3, they are being taught with the concussions are occurring with far superior helmets on the college and the NFL level. The helmet that we're looking at right now is $550 if we buy 7 of them. It is nothing in the NFL to pay $1,500 to $2,000 per helmet. And on the college level, like WVU, the guy told me, he said, we drop $1,500 a helmet and each player gets 4 helmets. Mm-hmm. So, we are working with some financial constraints, but we're trying to use our money the best we can to put our kids in the best possible equipment we can.
I have a couple clarifying questions about the sensors. So you said that scans, is it Rydell that scans it and downloads it, and then that information goes to you? Does it go to the athletic trainer, the athletic director?
For the fitting or for the head contact?
The head contact.
The sensors in the helmet, like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is kind of then from the healthcare medical aspect, when that information, Coach, comes to you, then is there any collaboration you have with a physician or trainer?
The way I would handle it is we would have it all connected to an iPad that the trainer would maintain. And then she would get the notification that helmet 2, all right, was involved in a high contact. So whoever's wearing helmet 2, she would, pull them over and then assess them. Okay. Because everybody's different. Their heads are different. The kids that have more of a boxy block style head, you know, tend to absorb, you know, it is what it is, but doesn't mean that they didn't receive something. So that would go to her, and she would assess them. We work great together. If even now, if we see a kid that we think got hit hard, we'll pull them out. It's, you know, it's no big deal. You know, it's just part of our protocol, so to speak.
The other question I had, thank you. The other question I had was in regards to, I know you're here talking to us about Grafton High School, but what about the middle school? Do we have the same type of helmet, or is it different, or what is it?
I have no idea how many of the Speed Flex helmets they have. I'm pretty sure they don't have any of the Axiom.
My thoughts on this is you're running into where you have kids that would be considered more youth than adult. And this is an adult helmet.
They get pretty roughed up there at the middle school level. I see that as well.
I know. So I don't know if this is available to that age group.
Okay.
It would be something to look at, because I know with the Speed Flex, you know, they have a youth style and an adult style, and it's usually based off of weight. This is kind of a heavy helmet, and it's really too heavy for middle school kids to be wearing, in my opinion.
Well, I just want to say, if you've had 2 concussions, I think that speaks volumes to your coaching.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it speaks volumes to our kids for accepting coaching and listening. That's
Yeah, both ways,
That
yeah.
too.
Huh?
That
That
too,
too.
yeah.
So, one thing I want to say about warranty, it's not that the Guardian Cap's going to break the helmet. The warranty is more on the function of the helmet. When you put that Guardian Cap on there, it doesn't allow these panels to do its work. It covers them up, and I know it's padding, but it's I don't know the physics behind it, but I know if that padding was over it, that's not going to allow that panel
To
to
give.
collapse properly the way it should. That's why the warranty is.
Well, then that's going to impact your sensors.
Yes.
You're not going to know.
Yeah,
So-
How are you going to know where that hit and the impact of that hit if
Exactly.
it's not working the way it's designed to? Can I see that helmet?
So, Mr. Board, then as I'm looking at this information you've provided, there's an indication that there's yet more research to be done. The one study suggests that there's, I believe the statement is, we need to do more and larger studies to see about the Guardian Caps. That's one of the slants. And I'd like to think that was an ever-present plan, not just you, but these companies.
Yeah,
So-
and I would like to know, like, he said Bridgeport was using them, but like, I mean, how many schools in our state are actually using those Guardian Caps? And, you know, there's things that we want to be out front and do first. Safety would be one, but if there's any question on safety protocol and it either hindering something, I'm not sure about us being out front and forging first, right? There's times we want to do be first, and there's times we want to sit back and observe and maybe, I don't know. I'm sitting here just taking it all in because I'm not really sure yet, right?
yeah,
I'm not
and-
really sure.
and-
I'm not sure how to feel yet.
And understand that there is no perfect scenario. The Axiom helmets do not prevent all concussions, nor do the Guardian Caps. And we could come to an agreement to use the Guardian Caps. We could come to an agreement to use the Axiom helmets, and we could have more concussions next year than we've had in years. It's taking that precaution that will hopefully prevent that from happening.
What if a parent came to you and wanted their kid to use the Guardian Cap?
They are allowed to be used on the high school level, and we would say yes.
Would you ask the parent to purchase it, or would the school purchase it?
I think it's a piece of protective equipment, and I think that
school
my
would.
role as the athletic director, I have to purchase that.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a good, sorry, John.
Go ahead.
I think that's a good, that, for me, if somebody was standing here saying, hey, this is giving us the information that this is the best route to take right now, I would say, let's move forward in purchasing them. But until we can get more data, maybe, I don't know if I'm right, I'm not sure. But until we could get more data and a parent wants to have their kid wear that, then I'd say that's the way to go until we can get data on purchasing them for everyone.
I agree. Like, this year was the first year that in the NFL and in college football that they were wearing them in games. They've been wearing them in practice for a while. The NFL live contact in practice is very minimal. They don't want their $1 million investments getting hurt in practice because of tackling. So they don't do that. Very rarely do they have live contact days on a week that they have a game. College is kind of similar. They do a lot of wrapping up, and they stay on their feet as opposed to tackling to the ground. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't head-to-head contact, but they do a lot of stuff. They teach that proper technique, and those are some things that we've kind of emulated in our practices as ways to keep ourselves from falling to the ground all the time. And we're regulated by the state, by the National Federation of High School Sports, with the amount of contact we have in a week, and we abide by that. So we don't do a lot of, banging around, but like I said earlier, you can't control everybody's movements. Someone could trip and fall, and as they're falling forward, could make head contact with somebody, and those things happen. It's the nature of the game. But we do a lot of preventative stuff to try to do our best to keep the kids safe.
Yeah, and I want to, because I'm going to leave here in a second to go to the high school, but I want to make sure that here in public, that my comments don't get misconstrued, that I'm not for safety equipment. I'm 100% for safety equipment. I just want to make sure it's going to work as we want it to work before we invest. And if the board feels that that's what they want to do, then I would be on board with the rest of the board. If the board feels like we want to get more data, I would be on board for the board to get more data. If the parents would like to purchase it or would like the school system to purchase it for their children, if a parent or two wants that, I'm on board with that as well. I want to make sure that we do what's right for our kids, whatever decision that is. So I want to make sure that no one feels that I'm against purchasing equipment for safety purposes for our kids. I will do that if that's what needs to be done.
And please understand that our purpose tonight is not to say helmets yes, Guardian caps no, or vice versa. It's to provide you with information so that you can kind of tell us what direction you would like us to go in. The information out there, the studies out there are very inconclusive. It's which came first, the chicken or the egg. You just pick a side, and you can prove your point with either side. So the information is just inconclusive at this point.
Likewise, I think we had this conversation this summer, I think in June or July, I believe it was, with the Guardian caps. I can't remember, Dr. Stallings, when that was, that we had this conversation, and we went in depth with this, and I know that we reached out, to you guys about that, and, we're the same way. I mean, it's just kind of, we're at the mercy of what the information that we have.
My point of view is this. We're a board of probably non-athletes at this point. You guys are the coaches, the experts. What I want to hear is your recommendation, and I want to go with that. What I think I'm hearing is that the helmet is probably designed to be worked or used without that guardian cap and has those plates on the sides and the front and the back that might not work as well with the guardian cap. And if that's the case, then until we get better information, I think our kids are probably better served by going with that as a recommendation. I
agree.
want to hear, I want to hear your recommendation, and I think I've already heard it, but, that's what I want to go with. You guys are the experts in this field. We are certainly not. We fund things and we okay things, but you guys are the experts here, and we want to listen to you.
To piggyback off of him, I mean, I've heard door number 3 with a $1,100 difference, and I'm okay with that. That's just me personally, but that's what I'm hearing, and that sounds great to me. I don't hear I don't hear against guardian caps. I don't hear pro, and I'm okay if I don't hear it at all. I hear door 3 and the $1,100-$1,200 difference. That sounds good to me.
May I ask, how many helmets do we have in total? As you said, should we purchase this 7th with an 8th, that would bring us to 13 of this specific type. Again, I don't sport. I try, but it confuses me. So is 13 of that type enough? And next year we buy more of the linebacker helmet, and then we cycle it that way? Are we looking at 45 helmets? Are we looking at 150 helmets?
We're looking at approximately 60 to 65 helmets.
Okay.
And with our current budget, we believe the pertinent thing to do is to replace, in this instance, 8 of them a year, if this is the deal that they continue with, if that's the direction that you want us to go in.
Is that enough for your skilled players to have?
Not all the skilled players would have one, no.
How many would you need there?
Well, that's hard to say. It's a year-to-year type thing. Like, we're losing 5 seniors, and attrition, maybe a couple more kids, but we're looking at gaining, 24 incoming freshmen. Our roster was in the low 40s, so we're looking at a roster of over 60 kids. We have 53 helmets that we're going to send away for to be reconditioned. 5 of them are the Axiom, and the rest of them are the Speedflex, which is still a really good helmet to use. So that's the predicament we were in, is like it's time for us to order helmets, and because you kind of have to get a jump on it to have them available by the June. So that's where we were. We didn't know whether we were going to have to buy 10 Speedflexes, or if we were going to get the Axioms, or if we were going to have to take the extra money to get the Guardian caps. That's kind of where we were at, to get to maybe like a 65 number, so we have enough helmets to accommodate every kid in the program.
I'd like to make a recommendation, and that recommendation is not for or against the Guardian caps. It's just there's not enough information out there yet where people are saying yes or no. Also, until we resolve the issue of the certification of these Guardian caps, which could or could not void the warranty on the helmets, I would recommend that we not buy a lot of them, that we go with the 8 helmets, with the understanding that if any of the parents would request a Guardian cap, we'll purchase one of those for their child, and sit back and see what the research is going to tell us. Who knows, maybe the State Board of Education will come out with a stipulation that every kid in West Virginia has to wear a Guardian cap. And I would hate to overload us with helmets, the expensive helmets, that might not function quite as well with the Guardian caps if that's indeed the direction we need to go in. If not, as the guy said at WVU, the direction that he believes that football is headed is for the better helmets. And that's exactly what we're doing here. You see very few high schools, and I look when they play games, very few high schools that every kid on the sideline has a SpeedFlex helmet. And you see almost none where you see multiple kids with these Axiom helmets. We're very fortunate. And I will credit you all with the support that you give kids in this county, but also with the support with the athletic department, because the extra money that we've received has been extremely beneficial for the safety of these kids.
Well, my thought is, you know, if these helmets are working, then my thought is to stay with them. My other thought about research is it may take a while. Just from the position I'm in, I know research takes a while to get conducted. Plus, with children, pediatrics, it takes even longer because, you know, of the safety and the consents and things like that to do research on kids. So I appreciate the information that you've given us. I definitely will be reading more on it. And I kind of feel like we're in a good place with the helmets that we have, and then adding to them based on your recommendation.
I am on board with the highest quality helmet that we can get and not interfering with its design and functionality. As a second question, how much? I'm not seeing how much a Guardian cap costs.
Our Guardian caps, we can purchase 65 of those Guardian caps for about $3,800.
So if we needed to buy a handful,
Yes.
it's not going to break the bank.
Which I did the math, they were about $58 a piece in that scenario. So no, it would not break the bank if we had to go out and purchase a handful of those.
Okay, great. Do you feel like you have a solid answer from us, or do you need us to be very clear for you?
I feel pretty comfortable with what I've heard, yes.
Outstanding. Go forth and make champions. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to our PEIA group for resolution. Looks like we have some friends here this evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Members of the board, Dr. Stallings, Dr. Decker, thank you guys for letting us speak this evening. I am Jason Rogers. I'm the new AFT rep for Taylor County. I think most of you knew Mr. Frank Caputo. He's finally retired for about the fourth time. So,
Be careful. Be careful. I do that too.
well, my dad did the same thing. He retired 3 or 4 times and tried to go back to work, and my mom told him he wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So,
You're welcome.
Also with us tonight is our AFT local president, Sam Newland, and the WVEA local president, Renee Salone. Is that right? All right. And what we gave you guys here, WVEA and AFT have went together to do a joint campaign to get as much help possible to fix PEIA, the insurance that obviously covers our teachers, our administrators, police officers, state road workers, DHHR. And we feel like the teachers have, somewhat of a lot of power if we can get a group campaign going to get back to Charleston. And one of the campaigns we're working on, as you see in front of you, is a resolution from board members throughout the state. Okay? Just for an example, have you guys heard of the numbers on PEI so far, that the increases? Okay, it's astronomical. I mean, it's a 14% increase on your premiums. It's on your deductibles are doubling. If you have a spouse that's not on PEI, it's going from $190 to over $300 a month. And it's just getting to where we can't afford it. And we're doing everything we can as a joint, you don't hear WVA and AFT be joined together very often, but we are now working together. And we're fighting this and doing everything we can. And the paper in front of you is a resolution that we would like for you guys to sign in support of us taking this to this is actually going to be mailed to the governor. It's going to be mailed to the Senate President and mailed to the Speaker of the House, just saying you support whatever they do to fix PEIA and to support our teachers and our service personnel and to do something in this legislative session where these increases will not happen. And so far, our goal is to get all 55 counties, Board of Educations, to sign this. And so far, I think we have 30-some. Have you seen the paper yet? And, we're just doing everything we can. We have a petition out right now with over thousands of signatures that if you get online and see it, you guys can sign it. Anybody can sign it, really, that we're just really doing everything we can to stop this and to push our legislatures and people in Charleston to come up with a fix, because this is just, it's really getting ridiculous. And we got to have help, and we got to find a way for those guys to help us do something. And this would be a way for you guys to show support if you're willing to do so.
Given that there's a lot of whereas here, are you looking for signatures this evening, or do you have a timeline on this?
If you guys need to take it and read over it and sign it, and you decide you want to sign it, you can get a hold of me, or Dr. Stallings can get a hold of me if you decide you're going to sign it, and I can stop by and get it, or Sam or Renee can stop by and get it and make sure it gets in my hands.
Okay.
And we're going to send them all to, like I said, to all the leaders in Charleston.
Yeah, but
And
you're thinking sooner rather than later.
it would be nice to have it before they go into session, and definitely a lot of the new elected officials start, I think, January 1st or 2nd. Is that correct?
January 8th is
January
the
8th,
first
okay. We'd like to
opening
have it-
session of the legislature, and then they'll recess for a month. But
Correct, and we would love to have it before then if possible.
Okay.
So what I'll ask, or if I might just add something, if you would send me an electronic version to my email, then I can have a means, once the board decides, if and when they decide to sign it and endorse what's happening, I can scan their signed copy to you.
I will have it sent to you before I leave the building this evening.
Okay. I will offer that as an option for the board. That will afford you an opportunity to read it, and to be more comfortable with what you'd be signing.
And honestly, and just to summarize, I know you guys will read it, but just to summarize, it just talks about how stabilizing PEI is definitely going to help retain teachers. We get a list every month of people that have stopped paying their dues for our union. I'm sure both groups do, and it tells why. And I would say if we get 10, 9 of them are quit employment. And we were trying to stop that because we know we're roughly 1,500 teachers short in the state of West Virginia right now. And very few counties have all positions filled. And if we start piling on more expenses and people can't afford to teach, they're going to find something else to do. And they have the luxury now. I mean, back in the day, there was hardly any jobs around. Now you can go to work anywhere, but we want to keep highly qualified people in our classrooms. And this is, this would help to get support to stop that from happening in Charleston if they can find a way to cover the extra expenses that the PEI board voted on.
yeah, I will say in terms of full disclosure, I have already sent a letter similar to this from myself and the president of the retired school employees to the governor, the president of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House, or the incoming president of the Senate, because retirees are involved in this too. Retirees that are on Humana won't be affected until the 2026 plan year, but they will be dramatically affected at that point. And, if there isn't some stabilization in PEIA, both our active employees and our retired employees are going to suffer in the long run from that. And I would strongly urge us to sign this resolution and would make that motion.
And I will say to touch on that, it's 12% increase on the retirees on their premiums.
Yeah, but that's the premium increase. The
Right.
co-pays, the deductibles,
All that
the
goes up.
out-of-pocket maximum, all of that
All that goes up.
continues. The hospital co-pays,
Prescription.
you know, all the hospital copay, for example, is $100 now. It'll go up to $250. Just as that one example, the out-of-pocket maximum is going to go up by several hundreds of dollars.
Thank you.
I think that we can all agree that keeping highly qualified, well-compensated, appreciated teachers and administrators and service personnel in our buildings is paramount. I would ask that the board members take the time to read this in full, and should you as an individual choose to sign it, please get with Dr. Stallings by end of day Friday and have a signature. End of day might be 3 o'clock because it's Christmas break. I don't know, there's an early release. So that we can get this back to you in a timely
We
fashion.
appreciate your support. And one thing you hear back, and I'm not going to get into the whole arguing about the politics side, but one thing you hear from Charleston is, well, we've given you guys a 5% raise the last 2 years. Well, if you ask any employee, they'll tell you they haven't seen it because of these increases. And some folks will actually be losing money even with the raises.
Yeah.
So
I work for a non-state agency and we have PEIA, and
this
it
affects a lot of
affects
people other than-
everybody.
Well, this affects a lot of people other than teachers and service personnel as well. Like I said, our police officers, our health and human resources. So we're trying to do our part, and we ask for your all support.
Yeah, and I might point out, in addition to that, that our retirees have not seen those raises. I'm retired in 2011 and have had no increase in my retirement since then. There are some people who have been retired as much as 30 or maybe even 39 years and haven't had an increase in their pension. So, we've got retirees being hit with this even worse than the actives.
Yeah, both of my parents are retired educators, so they're going to be affected as well. But you guys have anything you want to chime in? But like I said, we just ask for your support, and we really appreciate it, and appreciate you letting us speak tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication to this and to all of our teachers and service personnel. And
Thank you, guys.
Welcome aboard, replacing Mr. Caputo.
It's big shoes to fill.
Big shoes.
Yeah.
I understand. I say I'm the new old rep because the first 2 times he retired, I actually had Taylor County. So when he came back, went back south. So.
I'll say this on the while it's live streaming, you have some ornery shoes to fill too.
There you go. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I will email you that. Can you write your email down for me? Or you have it? Okay, we have it.
Sam has my number. Thank you.
okay, that brings us to the superintendent's updates, data reveals, shout outs, and in case you haven't heard.
You go. I'm going to send you the hard copy, I promise. If you'll just take one of these, this was sent to you electronically this weekend. And again, it's brief, but it was just an update on, I do have a more recent with regard to the item number one about that property in question. Okay?
Bless you.
Bless you. That I was in contact with our attorney who is working on that final paperwork for you, and he has assured me that that should be available within the week, by the end of this week. Likewise, we have, as we've indicated, we're still working on those MOUs with regard to the possible options for parent pickup of students and drop off. Yes, sir.
A comment on those MOUs.
Yes, sir.
I feel certain that due diligence is going into that, and maybe our attorney is looking at those. But what I think we ought to do is guarantee those entities that are going to allow us to use their property that in the long run they will be made whole. If we damage their property by heavy school buses going on it, after all is said and done, that needs to be cleaned up.
Certainly, we have the indemnification policy that will be a part of each of those MOUs, Mr. Taylor, and there's no plan to have any heavy equipment, including school buses, take advantage of our neighboring properties. It's merely parents driving. That question was raised and clarified.
How are the kids going to get there?
The buses are going to access our typical one-lane access into the building into the school campus that we use.
How do the kids get to the parent drop-off places?
They'll be walking across the property, the current property.
Okay.
Yeah, these MOUs have nothing to do with any kind of heavy equipment for construction or bus transportation. Nothing heavy.
Just vehicles, just parent vehicles?
Just a tip like a you or I drive to drop those things.
Okay. I just sort of assumed we were going to bus the kids to the parent drop-offs.
One of the MOUs had that as an option. There are three on the table. I'm waiting for one, the more recent one that's still in the offing, and I had the recent meeting as of Wednesday, that is addressing the option that would eliminate the additional, one of the, option 2, which I approached first, was going to be utilizing shuttling. When option 1 became on the table, that eliminated the need. That is still in the final details negotiation stage. When that is the case, then we will go back to the other, which is merely just a staging area for parents to wait until our buses depart the campus. I can explain all that to you at some point with the...
Is it no structural...
I'm just hesitant to give you all the details because I don't want to give any kind of a misinformational piece, because we have experienced people interpreting incorrectly without any information on our behalf already. And I'm trying to dial that down and keep that from becoming public misinformation. That has happened on our behalf, by the way. And I don't want to disparage the distributors of misinformation at all. That's not my place. But I'm trying to rein that in while we address the one that would create a sequential next step for the others.
I think the biggest thing is possibly that we want to dial in is that we leave it at as good as we found it, if not better.
That's why the indemnification policy is
Yeah.
a part of that process for each one.
Yeah, there's no structural.
We are not the plan is not to invest any public funds on other people's property.
No, we're not tearing anything down. We're not
Currently,
putting on-
that is not in any of on your behalf, our designs or our proposals. None.
Okay.
There are entities that are interested in doing those things. We are not a part of that conversation.
As long as that indemnification states that we are leaving it as good, if not better than it currently is.
We will not be adding money to improve their properties. We will just be making sure we don't leave with having damaged their property.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
what?
We are talking about a cemetery here, so.
Or what?
We are talking about a cemetery here, so I definitely
I
don't
will
want to.
I will neither confirm or deny publicly.
Okay. I apologize. I thought we already confirmed that.
I'd appreciate that we not do that, please.
Okay.
So, to be clear, with any of these, if we break it, we will fix it.
Yes, ma'am.
But we will fix it to its
What we
original
found,
state.
not to increase.
Because as a public entity functioning with taxpayer dollars, our investment in an individual private property is not for improvement,
Correct.
is not necessarily an appropriate use of funds.
We are not able to enhance, enlarge
Dr. Stallings, what property were you talking about that they would be walking to then?
their own. Our current, we would be accessing the drop-off that's in one of these proposals. We would be walking east from the building across their current play yard area. I can give you more details. I know that you want to talk about a cemetery, but I won't do that
I
tonight.
don't. I just, that's where I received the information. So.
Thank you. Please, I would encourage you to talk with me before you hear what other people are doing.
I heard it from you.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but we have been,
So many irons still in the fire, all with the goal of making this particular drop-off, pickup situation
survivable.
very good. Any other questions?
I'm not withholding from you, I promise. I'm not withholding from you. I just don't want to, I don't think we're ready to talk publicly about the details because there aren't any specifics that are finalized. With all due respect.
I appreciate that. and
Thank you.
Trust your judgment there on that.
Moving along, the third thing talks about the agencies. Your letters have been delivered. The ordinance has been delivered. A third copy was, per request of the board, provided not to the entities, the county commission, the Grafton City Council, as well as the Grafton Health Department. They too share a concern that you have raised in your letters. I have not heard back from those groups yet. They've just received them as a result of the meeting last week. We just had a quick 1 week turnaround. They received them on Friday. And we're continuing to address the needs for the better lighting of the crosswalks and the entrance to these, the crosswalk on Sanborn Drive, as well as in front of high school, as well as the entrance to the student parking lot. And fortunately, with your approval, we were able to replace that unit on the top of Anna Jarvis that went down last week and a half ago with regard to the HVAC during that snap right after the Thanksgiving break. And those pages those are the school updates. They're not the one from the middle school or the high school because they are on. We missed that opportunity for the middle school last time, but that's on the agenda. She will be sharing that information during the meeting in January when the high school is to present theirs as well. Yeah. There you go. I think that's all for right now.
Okay, anybody else got any questions for Dr. Stallings at this point? Okay. Board member updates? Board member committee meeting reports? That moves us into the 2000 series minutes, policies, contracts, and agreements. The superintendent respectfully requests the approval for the minutes for the regular meeting on December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Mr. Taylor moves.
Second.
Mrs. Gallo seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Our number of agreements. Contracts and memorandum of agreement. The superintendent respectfully requests approval of items 2070 through 2081 in the 2000 series.
Moved.
Mrs. Gallo moves.
Second.
Mr. Taylor seconds. Questions?
I just wanted to comment, really appreciate the community support of our schools and providing opportunities for our children to learn. That's a very long list, and I think that, for a small community, that's wonderful. I really nice how our community supports our children.
All right, there's motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 3,000 series consent calendar. We've got some purchase orders and some chaperones. Superintendent respectfully requests approval of items 3108 and 3109 in the 3,000 series.
Moved?
Mrs. Gallo moves. I'll second. Questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 4,000 series financial vouchers payable. What you got for us, Mr. Dolan?
Inside your packet are just the list of scheduled checks to be written upon your approval, just to pay bills that we've acquired over the last week.
Okay. Superintendent respectfully requests approval of items in the 4,000 series.
Moved?
Second.
Mrs. Gallo moves. Mr. Taylor seconds. Any additional questions? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. 5,000 series, student matters, personnel, legal matters, professional personnel, employment. We've got a creation, some resignations, and some leave of absence. Superintendent respectfully requests approval of items 5374 through 5378 in the 5,000 series.
Moved?
Mrs. Gallo moves.
Second.
Mr. Taylor seconds. Questions? I have one. Item 5374. Is this an after-school club? Yes. Okay, in reading the job description, that compensation stipend seemed out of balance with the rest of our club-level sponsors. Can you explain why?
So that's based on the after-school programs. It's not really a club as like your traditional club. So the Golden Horseshoe, all these extracurriculars, Mrs. Roberts has assigned that total number of hours they can do and the amount that is. So they may not use it, but that's the total they can up to that amount of hours. So it's an after-school program with federal kind of funds tied to those.
Can I ask that before we post that, we
Yep.
check that? Because
I was gonna try to pull what it says.
when I did the quick math and I
There it is.
was not able to find my,
There it is. Yep. It's,
that piece that he gives us with all the
it's not
extra.
it's not tied to that same compensation program is the problem. So those pieces, this is just like an after-school tutor and any after-school programming that is done through title funding and federal funding. Mrs. Roberts ties that. So it's completely different than the salary schedule that's created. And so they're allotted, the school was allotted so many hours, and they could divide those hours up based on their needs through their programming. And so they determined this was one of the after-school program needs that they wanted, and was approved by Mrs. Roberts as the after-school programming, and it fit that. So everyone, like your Golden Horseshoe, your lunch tutors, your after-school tutors that we just created with all the same funding, it's all been the same stipend and hours given to them. If you feel that's too much, we can go back and talk to Mrs. Roberts about that. And Miss T and Miss Waters, because they're the ones that submitted that.
Right. I'm just concerned that as an after-school club, even as that stipend seemed higher than what we're actually paying our cheer coaches at the middle or the high school.
Because it's a different, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
understand that
Yeah.
it comes out of a different pocket,
Yeah.
but that would seem to imply that
I
that
get what you're
position is
saying.
more valued or important or whatever. So I just,
I totally get what you're saying. It might need to be determined that that's not an appropriate after-school type of program, instead of saying that can't be the pay, because all after-school programs they're being funded in this same way. So anyone that we ask to stay after school on it, that's an hourly stipend. That's our hourly stipend that we pay. Mr. Dole and I were just talking about this today in a different situation. So anyone that stays after school to do something, they get paid that $30 an hour. So this might not be an appropriate use of an after-school position in comparison to like an extracurricular coaching position as this. But that might be the discussion that needs to happen. So if you are uncomfortable with that, then we cannot approve that, and that we can go back to the drawing board with that. Because none of this is, it's not been posted, none of that's happened, this is just up for discussion.
I don't know if anybody else has feelings on that one way or another.
Well, I think you do pose very valid
Yes.
points. Because I will say as well, when I read over this, I kind of was along the same lines of thinking is this compensation comparable or higher than what? Not saying that the value isn't as important. I'm just being mindful, like Mrs. Garvin mentioned, of our coaches and so forth.
Or just pull it.
At this point, I would move that we pull 5374 for this evening and ask that it be brought back for consideration. Mr. Taylor seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Any additional questions in the 5,000 series? Okay, so the superintendent respectfully requests approval of items 5375 through 5378 in the 5,000 series.
So move.
Ms. Scala moves.
Second.
Mr. Taylor seconds. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Brings us to the 8,000 series. Board member comments and discussion. A discussion of the ordinance proposal.
Mr. Taylor had asked about the ordinance discussion.
What?
That's on there because you had requested that you discuss the ordinance.
Well, it's already been sent to the city and the county. That's what I was concerned that it be done.
There you have it.
All right.
Done, fulfilled.
Okay.
And this is great. And, if others like the health department chime in, that might just make it that much more likely. We need to protect our kids.
I might, if I could. I learned something just this afternoon I did not know. That disappointed me, and probably you as well. I'm not trying to tell you to be disappointed, but I'll be surprised if you're not. We learned that the former bank in Fairmont, which is in the Commons, has now converted to a smoke and vape shop, and they've included you can access via the drive-through. So you don't even have to get out of your car to go in to buy those things. You simply drive by like you're making a bank deposit, still utilizing the same function, the tube system, which makes it unfortunately even more accessible. Fortunately not Taylor County, but there's always that possibility for this board to reach out to Marion's board and say, hey, we'd love to partner with you, but we hope that you agree that we don't like that. I'm just planting a seed.
All right, that brings us to the review of the delegation policy 0169.1. I believe everyone got a copy of that policy with
You're doing
their
fast,
packet.
add that on.
I did have a question when I was reading over this. Just kind of wanted to get the board's thoughts, and I don't know, maybe Dr. Stalling, Dr. Decker, you could help us or help me, because I've read the statement, the last sentence in C that's in parentheses multiple times, and it seems contradictory to what it states above. So it says attendees must register their intention to address the board in public portion of the meeting no later than 15 minutes before the meeting is scheduled to begin. So that would be 5:45, right? And I know on our agendas, it's 5:30. So that was one thing I wanted to clarify. But then the next sentence goes on that the board shall provide a form for such registration, and such form shall be located in a convenient and accessible place within the meeting room. I think ours is currently outside the meeting room. I don't.
Actually, it's here on the table
Moved it.
inside.
Okay,
We've
great.
relocated that.
Relocated it, thank you. But then the next sentence says, members of the public may not be required to register to address the board more than 15 minutes before the meeting is scheduled to commence. But they may not be required. But the first sentence, we're asking
It's
them
just
to.
more than 15 there.
I read that the first sentence says no later, then the other one says more than.
So you can't say, now we're making it 20. You didn't meet the 20-minute before the meeting deadline.
So, like you said, the delegation form should not say 5:30, it should say 5:45, because that's more than 15 minutes.
Yes.
So that's what, that's how I read that, so.
Okay, I think the talk, just me speaking, is a lot of people will email me and say, I want to speak before the board. So we ask them to let us know by 5:30 so they can get here by 5:45 and complete the form.
So that probably
That's
just
not
needs
like our
clarified.
cutoff, it probably needs to be a little bit more clarified.
Yeah.
But they're allowed till 5:45 to do that. It's just most people are emailing me saying, I want to speak before the board, can I do it? And it's
Okay.
usually around 5:15, 5:30.
So I think that may be, we had a delegation a couple meetings ago, and I think that was part of the inquiry of that individual. So, of the commute to get here, whatever. So really, the individual should be here at 5:30, right?
No, well,
No.
as long as they're here by 5:45. If they have told her at 5:30, then they have to get here by 5:45. Really, it doesn't matter if they email her or not. My understanding is they just have to be in this room, fill out that form by 5:45.
Yeah.
That's probably what needs to be specified more
Okay.
directly. When I read this, because I read over it too before our last meeting, and so that was my understanding is that, and Dean's probably texting me saying, talking to the microphone. So that would be to be clear, it really needs to be, electronic means it doesn't say that there's an electronic means in that statement. It says they have to be here in this room with the form completed by 5:45.
Yeah.
Or at the boardroom site where we happen to be.
Right.
Right, or at the site. So that's probably what needs to be stated. That's probably what, we should just come up with a generalized statement that anytime someone emails or contacts to speak as a delegation, that it read, anyone's permitted to speak as a delegation, you just have to be in the meeting room location by 5:45 with the form completed.
Okay. I think,
Cleaning that up a little.
yes. I mean, that's my thought. I'm just one person, but.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I just noticed, and not that I didn't just notice, but just for clarification, under E, it says each statement made by a participant may be limited to the lesser of 5 minutes, duration of the amount of time calculated by dividing amongst the speakers, set aside for the public participation unless extended by the presiding officer. So we do indicate to them 5 minutes, our presiding officer does, but it is up, my understanding is, and what I've received in training is, it's up to the presiding officer and they can extend that. And I think that sometimes that is also unclear to sometimes, you know.
Yeah, my understanding of that statement is that if Dr. Stallings and I were both here to talk about the same topic, we only have 5 minutes. So he can say, you get, you can have some of my time to talk. But then, of course, the board president always has the right to say.
Right.
Always has the right to say, well, if you're not finished, we'll give you another minute or 2 minutes or whatever.
But I think that's also kind of been a question amongst delegations is the amount of time an individual has received. But the way I'm reading this policy is we say 5 minutes, but it is still up to the presiding officer. Am I understanding this correctly?
That is the way I understood that to be. Generally, it has been my experience while on this board that since it's not a conversation piece, that they can present their point of view in 5 minutes or less. Now, occasionally, that has not been the case, and I have seen it go well beyond the 5 minutes. I think we're within our rights the way we have conducted ourselves based on the way this reads. I'm certainly willing to recraft any piece of this that we feel like needs to be recrafted. But it's also, there's a piece in here that says it limits to 45 minutes. Well, if you're going to divide.
Right.
So and I know that we have all but suspended that in the past as well, based on the situation.
Yes.
So,
those were the only two areas that I wanted to just make sure that I was understanding correctly. And then if there's any clarification that we can make it a little bit more clear for the public and anyone that did want to speak to the board on a delegation is the timing.
yeah.
Yes, my interpretation, just to make sure I have my notes right, I don't think it's the policy that's confusing them. I think it's the delegation form that seems to be confusing them because it has a different, I think the rationale is to let somebody know so they can get, like, if they didn't know they had to be here by 5:45, if they called the office or sent an email, 5:30, do that. So you have enough time to get here. But really, the statement just needs to be out somewhere that says delegations are permitted to speak any night that there's a board meeting, as long as you're in the room where the board meeting is held with the form filled out by 5:45. Just clarified. And I think that goes on the delegation form because I think that's what my interpretation of what that says.
While you're discussing that, I'm capturing the notes of that clarification so we can make sure we capture that on the appropriate forms or locations without requiring that you have to do a policy change. It just needs to be matching documents.
The 15-minute is actually in West Virginia code.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Right. So I think the issue, as we just said, is we don't have matching documents.
Yes.
And we will certainly clean that up for your next meeting prior to.
Thank you. I appreciate that for our constituents so that they can address the board and be clear with the process on how to do that.
Excellent.
Does anybody else have any comments or discussion?
I did want to raise, just again, a concern. You know, we've had, unfortunately and very sadly, another school shooting in our country. And I just think it is very imperative that we are proactive in our safety measures in all of our schools. This is very disheartening that this happened and there were lives lost this week. It just keeps happening in our country, and I think it is so important that we are addressing safety needs to be at the forefront always. And I did hear a report that I believe this was at a private school, but they did not have any metal detectors. I know the investigation is still going on. They're trying to determine how the weapon got into the school. But we have this equipment. We need to be finding a way to utilize it in the best way possible for all parties and be proactive. That's all I'm going to say.
Mrs. Gallo, I share your concern with the continuation of school shootings. It seems to be, I believe this is 39th for our country since the beginning of this school year, or this calendar year, excuse me. Troubling beyond measure. I also want to reassure you that since our last board meeting, we did assemble administrators and to revisit and continue the conversation about the utilization of metal detectors per your request. And they are actively engaging in multiple various random ways to implement what we have, the equipment that we do have, so that they can gather more specific information to get back with you as a board and give you updates and recommendations about what we're learning about the equipment that was purchased for us. That's to reassure you.
Yes.
They share the concerns and will be expressing their concerns about the operation of, the facilitation of, and the utilization of those, and the effectiveness as much as they can see possible. That's why they're doing multiple, both at middle and high school right now.
And they will be there to present.
And they'll be there when we are at the high school on the 14th. The plan is for them to demonstrate and then to report on what their findings are at that point.
I appreciate that. I think we need to be very full speed on this.
I want to say what I often say, we're on it, but I don't want to sound disrespectful, that we are definitely on that. And there will be more information available as they have a chance to do that. Thank you. I hope that's helpful.
I just want to give a quick shout out to our music departments at both the middle school and the high school. The high school band is on stage right now, probably, but I have had the opportunity to watch the middle school band and choirs and the high school, both the entertainers and the concert choir in the last week and a half, and they are outstanding groups of students, and we as a community should be very proud of them, and as a community should be very grateful for the directors of those programs. They are outstanding individuals. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say it was nice to be at the middle school last week, and Mrs. Fluharty Godfrey took us around and showed us the improvements and the different things that are happening up on the hill, and what transformation. And it just, I'm really impressed, and it looks great, and the just all the things that they're doing, all the little incentives and the lockers and the signs and just the vision she also has for the future too. So it was very nice.
All right, that moves us to the 9000 series future meetings. January 4th, 6 o'clock at Grafton High School. I assume that will be in the Mary Battle Room.
We're still determining, Mrs. Shoemaker is determining the actual space based on the number of students that are being invited to be recognized.
Very good. January 21st, 6 o'clock here at the board office. January 28th, 6 o'clock here at the board office. February 11th, 6 o'clock at Anna Jarvis. And February 25th, 6 o'clock back here at the board office. Hearing none, I will...
It's just a reminder. It's a good reminder. I just want to remind you about this week's winter celebration on the 19th at the high school in the Commons area. It's not an official board meeting, but remember we did that. This is our second annual, and the Pro Start program is excited and waiting and eager to have you be a part of that. And I hope you can make that. That's between 4 and 5:30. Be there for all, a portion of, but something if you can. We'd love to have you. That's a positive.
Very good. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Taylor moves.
Second.
Mrs. Gallo seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:38. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday season and be safe.